Everybody, welcome to On Angel Wings. We come together every Monday to discuss something, whether it's an angel, an ascended master, a saint, who knows what's going to come up for us, whatever spirit guides us to do. I'm Teri Angel, and I'm here with my co-host, Christina Leftwich. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Teri. Hi, everybody.
Oh, it's so great to see everybody on this full moon.
Yeah.
And we have the beautiful Mary Lou with us.
Hi, everybody.
Jean Lorio.
Hello, everyone.
Charlie Coons and Erica Hoppy.
Hello, everyone.
And our Grace Isis, who's muted. So welcome everybody that's here on Zoom, and anyone else that can that wants to jump in, feel free to do that. And all of you that are watching virtually, we're so happy that you're here. Today, we have a wonderful, wonderful energy that we are going to learn more about. And I am so excited to hear what Christina has put together for us. And then we'll go into a meditation after that to get to know this beautiful one even better. So Christina, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, we're going to share this screen. Okay, let me get the right one here. There we go. And all right, so today's Ascended Master is such a gentle, loving soul that I think everyone could take some wisdom from and help if needed. So today we're going to be talking about Saint Therese. She's also known as the Little Flower, or Therese of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face. So some little fast facts about this wonderful lady. She was born Marie Francoise Therese Martin, and she was born on January 2nd, 1873 in Alençon, is that France? And I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Alençon, I believe is how it's pronounced. She died September 30th in 1897 in Lisieux, France. She was later canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. Actually, in a very short period of time, it had been less than 30 years since her death. And in that time, it usually took at least 50 years to get canonization from the Roman Catholic Church, but she was canonized in 1925. Her feast day through that church is October 1st. She is also only one of four named a doctor of the Roman Catholic Church, and she is also known as the patron saint of missions and missionaries, which she shares that with, I believe, Saint Francis of Xavier, and of florists as well. And with that little flower thing, you can kind of see how that might happen. Now, before we can really focus on Therese, we need to talk about her family, because she really was a part of just an amazing family as well. And I think it helped to form who she became. So her parents were Louis and Zélie Martin. Now, just so you know just how amazing some of this family is, these two are the first married couple with children to be canonized by the Roman Catholic Church, and that just happened in 2015. I do believe there are also two of the sisters of Therese that are also being considered for canonization to sainthood. So they were very religious, but by all accounts, they were extremely devoted, caring parents that just really gave their all to both their marriage as well as to their children. Now, Louis was a successful watchmaker and Zélie a master lace maker. And she actually owned her own business in that lace making profession, which, if you can think back, what we know of the 1800s, a woman owning her own business was kind of a big deal. So Saint Therese was the youngest of 9, but one of only 5 that actually survived childhood. There were actually, I believe, 2 brothers and 3 sisters that ranged in age from just infants. One, I believe, was only 6 weeks old when she passed, all the way up to 5 years of age. And their parents were obviously quite devastated, but it is said that her mother grew weary of people telling her, maybe it would just be better if they hadn't been born at all to avoid that kind of terrible hardship. And she got angry about that. And she said, they may have only been here for a short time, but they were totally worth it. And we know in our hearts, because again, Teresa's parents were very religious and devoted to the Lord. And she really believed with all her heart that this was just a moment in time and that all of her children were living and beyond. So when Therese was born, she was small right from the very beginning. She was weak and frail. Many, including her own mother, did not think she would survive. Her mother was quite a prolific writer, especially to her family that lived elsewhere. And she often wrote, actually, she wrote all the time about her children. But her own perception at the time was she was very fearful that she would indeed die and meet the fate that some of her other children had. But lo and behold, Therese astounded them all by being a lot tougher than they thought. And she managed to get through that first year, although she always did remain frail and a bit sickly. Her parents, although thoroughly devastated by great loss, doted on their children, and everyone doted on Therese. Okay, she was their light. Again, her mom writes how her birth brought such joy back to their home after all of that loss. And they positively, to the point of probably spoiling her, Therese, they just worshiped her in some ways and were so happy that she had been given to them. Now, Saint Therese describes these years with her parents as the sunny years and one of great happiness for the whole family. They had Sunday walks out in nature, and they always did things as a family, which in the 1800s, you may not have heard of that quite so much as perhaps you do now. However, in 1877, tragedy once again happened and befell this poor family. Teri, after a long battle with breast cancer, died from the disease. This actually made the once rambunctious, confident 4-year-old who was known for her optimism and positivity, even if she was getting into a little bit of trouble. These series of events, especially her mom passing, just made her fall into a period of time that was filled with depression and sadness, and as well as more physical illness for Therese. So after the death of Teri, the family moved to Lisieux, France. So where, by all accounts, they were able to settle into some semblance of normal everyday life. And actually, Therese's sister Pauline kind of stepped in at that time as almost a second mother figure. And Therese became very close to her. Now, unfortunately, at the age of 9, Therese would also have to deal with the issue of having a loss once again. Now, this time it was her sister Pauline, again, the one that was described as the second mother by Therese. She announced that she would be leaving to join the cloistered nuns of the local Carmelite order. Now, cloistered nuns means just that. Once you went into the monastery, that's where you remained. You were cloistered inside this monastery and the monastery grounds. And so for a lot of practical purposes at that time, Therese really felt abandoned yet again. And it really created a lot of feelings of abandonment and the depression. And just, it was a very difficult time that's actually described by her later on, where even her very spirituality felt like it was under attack, and she was constantly trying to find meaning. Now, soon after Pauline's departure to the Carmelite monastery, Therese fell seriously sick from a mystery illness. They never did actually find out or have a diagnosis, but she suffered tremendously from constant headaches, insomnia, fever, and even hallucinations. At some point, after months of going through this sickness, her sisters brought in a statue of Mother Mary to her bedside. Now, Therese recounted that she prayed at that time with the statue to please help with a cure for whatever illness she had. Therese then recounts that all of a sudden, the statue just started radiating this feeling and sensation of love and warmth and kindness. And at one point, even smiled at her. And in that moment, Therese was cured of her mysterious illness. Just, that's it. It was done and gone. So this statue has since been called Our Lady of the Smile. Now, this series of events just confirmed Therese already knew at a very young age that she was going to be religious and that she wanted to be a nun. But this even further made her determination so much more to fulfill that goal of being a nun. So although Therese was cured physically, she continued to struggle with fear, self-doubt, depression, and uncertainty. Her older sister, Marie, whom Therese had grown close to since Pauline had left to join the convent, she also decided to join the Carmelite monastery. So here we are again, where poor Therese was in a situation where she was losing yet another mother figure. So it was a little while afterwards that she decided that she too wanted to be a nun. She talked to her dad and explained to her dad that this had nothing to do with her sisters, but that during this time where she had suffered greatly, she had come to the conclusion that that was the best thing for her and that she was just born to be a nun. So her dad said, okay, well, you can ask. I'll give you permission to go and ask the mother of the nunnery to please, you can ask, but I got a feeling you're not going to be accepted. And sure enough, she went to the mother of the Carmelite order, seeking that early permission to be a nun. And of course, the request was indeed denied. She was only like 9 or 10 years old when this happened. She was far too young. So a while after that, this was a few months later, following a midnight Christmas mass in 1886, Therese says grace intervened, bringing a vision to her of standing at the base of the cross at the feet of Jesus, gathering his drops of blood and then handing them out to all the people. Her drive and vision to devote herself to people and charity and to help others was born. So again, still determined to be a nun, at 14, Therese tried once again to receive permission to become a nun by instead going directly to her bishop. He also told her that she was too young and to come back when she was 21. But this bishop never forgot Therese. She made such a an impression. And not only did she make an impression, but her father also made a deep impression on the bishop. He later wrote how he was kind of astounded that, Therese at the time was the fourth daughter that wanted to go into to be a nun and to not go into married life and have a family. And yet here was the dad, just very supportive and encouraging to Therese. And he made that clear to the bishop. So Therese had vowed to her father that if the bishop said no, she was just going to go directly to the Pope, because that's the kind of gal she was. She was direct. She had gotten her confidence back. So at the tender age of 15, after the bishop had said no, she did just that. Her family, her father, and one of her sisters was on a pilgrimage to the Vatican and their local church. So when they got in to see the Pope, they were told that they couldn't say anything, that he had a busy day, basically, and that if everybody tried to talk to the Pope, he would be there with far too long. He had things he had to do. Well, not really ever taking no for an answer. And like I said, she's now got her renewed sense of confidence that she had lost when she was just a youngster. That's all back now with her. And she literally went running to the Pope and flung herself at his feet. Again, asking him, please, I know without a doubt that this is what I am meant to be. And my the mother of the order won't let me do it. And he basically told her, well, you got to kind of pay attention to what the mother says. You have to kind of follow that advice because she's in charge. And she basically said, no, you're in charge. And she said, yes, but if you were to say yes, then they would have to agree. Now, we're not entirely sure. I couldn't find out anything, like if there was anything ever written, but something had to have worked, as just a few weeks later, she was contacted by the mother of the order and was granted permission at the very tender age of only 15 to become a nun. So Therese would remain at the monastery for the final 9 years of her life, which Therese describes this period as her most beautiful period. So it's here that she really developed her little way, as she called it. She also read from St. John of the Cross, taking his words as her motto: love is repaid by love alone. These words brought her so much peace and joy. She decided she'd been looking for something great all along, like a wonderful elevator that would somehow bring her closer to God. And she actually, at the time, elevators were this new technology that were all the rage. And so in her mind, she's like, no, I want to take an elevator to bring me right straight to God. Instead, what she realized and what she got visions from all of her praying was that all she needed to do was to show love in little ways, that it was all the little ways of ordinary life that brought the greatest rewards. So to find those ways in anything she did in her daily life, that was going to be her road to this glory. So for 9 years, she explored this, and she was actually not really known as a remarkable nun during her life. When other of her sisters would talk about her, they always said she was a good nun, but nothing really stood out. As she had at first, when she was first thinking of being a nun, she really wanted to go on the road and travel and do missions. And but her health was just too frail. She just could not be a missionary. And so she changed her mission to one of where she was planted, where she bloomed. That's where she should be. So in 1896, Therese began to experience the symptoms of tuberculosis. By the following year, it was clear that she was gravely and terminally ill. So her sister Pauline, who was now the prioress mother of the Carmelite order, actually ordered Therese to begin writing a manuscript of her life story. This was not in Therese's wheelhouse, so to speak, and she may not have done it if it was not for Pauline, who said, nope, I want you to write down the stories of her childhood. And that's kind of the first part of what became her autobiographical book. That is A Story of a Soul is the name of the book. It's a good book, actually. And it is an autobiographic, but it's actually like 3 parts. And if Pauline had not forced her, she probably would have never written any of it. And so first she got done with her childhood and her parents and the things that happened to her there. Then she got into her second period of life where she was really struggling with the death and the loss and the feelings of abandonment and thinking that she was just too small in this life to ever become big. And that struggle and where it brought her to one of hope and joy and knowing that she was all the big that she needed to be to get things done in life. So then the third part was what she had learned while she was a nun. And this last part must have been excruciating for her. Let's not mince words. Therese was in a lot of pain during this time. They had misdiagnosed at first her disease of tuberculosis, and some say that was because she was so optimistic and joyful in everything that she did that some people didn't think she was as sick as she really was until it got to the point where it was just something she couldn't hide. So each part gets put down, and these, like I said, these writings became part of her biographical book called The Story of a Soul. And there's a piece of it. So Saint Therese had known early in her very short life that she was destined for great things. For her, even in her death, she was so excited for her mission. She actually said that her mission was just beginning. Now, mind you, she knew by this time that she was indeed dying. And yet she actually said her mission was just beginning. So her desire, mystical visions meant that her profession would be to help from heaven those on earth. She begged God from early on. She knew that this was her mission too, and that when she died, that would be what she would do. Her entire mission, her entire reason for being, even in death, was to help those on earth, everyone on earth, the regular people. She would scatter her roses all around like flowers of love, showing how to love the divine. All of the ordinary people living ordinary lives, all of them, little individual wildflowers, which she actually called herself a little wildflower, not a big showy rose, but an individual wildflower. She knew it takes so much of the little things, the little way, to make life worth everything. So she did everything and every day with intentional love. Her little way, which really was anything but little, these little ways are truly great works. Everything and everyone counts in every deed, and there is holiness in everyday life. So here, my Aunt Mary Lou, who's with us today, she actually was able to go to Lisieux, and I see that there's a church there that's actually devoted to Saint Therese. And here we have some words that I'd like to share that she herself said. I understand that love alone acted on the members of the church. I understood that love contained all vocations, that love was everything, in a word that is eternal. Then in my delirious joy, I cried out, "Oh, Jesus, my love, my vocation, finally I found it. My vocation is love. In the heart of the church, my mother, I will be love. So I will be all." Now here we have some pictures. This is not one from my Aunt Mary Lou, but this is actually a picture of Therese as she was very ill. They actually wheeled her bed out at the monastery. So this is on one of the porches of the monastery. She really did love nature and made a lot of imagery actually associated with nature. I think that goes back to her time as a child when her parents would go on long walks on Sundays, and her father actually continued that. So here I have some of her quotes that I thought were nice. It is folly to pass one's time fretting instead of resting quietly on the heart of Jesus. So telling us not to worry about the past or the future, but to just live in today and in the moment. She really understood that. Love proves itself by deeds. Again, she was a doer, not just a sayer. So you have to follow through with action, with love. Another one, love is everything. My invocation is love. And then another insight, life is but a moment between two eternities. And I felt like, I'm going to kind of sum this up now using this word, love. That is actually one word that she ended her manuscript with, was just the word love. Her final words, actually out loud, I'll say that too, was, "Oh, Jesus, oh God, I love you." So here we have a church in Aunt Mary Lou. I believe this is St. Therese Parish that's devoted.
That's the basilica.
That's the Basilica of St. Therese.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's
okay,
the basilica, yeah.
okay.
They built in her honor as a doctor of the church.
As
Only doctors of the church were honored with a basilica.
With a basilica. Okay.
Yeah.
And then here is that of St. Therese right there?
Yes,
That
that
is
was
correct.
That was in the Church of St. Peter where she grew up.
Where she grew up. That's right. That's the church's name that their family went to, was St. Pierre or St. Peter.
Right, Pierre.
Okay. And then here's a plaque. Is there more to this here?
I think that's a piece of one of her bones that the church calls a relic.
Okay. And very good.
It's an eternal connection that, that they choose to use in that way to allow people to feel a connection, a closeness.
Okay. And then here it looks like there's St. Therese right there as well.
Yeah, that was in the lobby. They had a special lobby area where they showed videos. And I don't know, I just took every picture that I could take.
Yep. Thank you for that. Oh, and this was interesting. All right, so I just learned this about an hour and a half ago. I was wondering what this picture was. This picture is so Saint Therese, they all had to pick up all kinds of different ways of bringing in money, making things. So Saint Therese actually was a card maker, and she would paint, and they would sell these cards. That's actually real gold that she is painting with. It's paint trimmed, gold paint trimmed card making, and that was just a craft. I mean, at that time, women pretty much were limited with what they could do in crafts. Different craft making was things that they did. And so this is something that St. Therese did, which I thought was kind of cool. And here we have another statue of St. Therese.
Yeah, outdoors.
And look at this beautiful shrine.
And
You can
this was
see it
also
black and white.
this was also in the church, where she was raised.
Right. And I noticed that they have roses here.
Well, I
I'm
brought
sure.
those with me.
Oh, did you? Oh,
One was from me and one was from my daughter Marie, who was with us, and my grandson Jared.
very nice. Okay. How cool.
We just left them there with our
Very
love and
fitting. Very fitting for a Saint Therese, little flower.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's my presentation. And really, her story touched me on so many levels. And so it was hard for me. It's a little bit longer than normal today, but I just really felt her story and I wanted to share, but there's still so much more. So again, I'll encourage you, as I do with all of what we discuss here, do some looking into her. It's just a fascinating, what a gentle, kind, compassionate soul this person is. So it was great to be in her presence.
Oh, Christina, thank you. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. I was not raised Catholic, so I grew up not being familiar with the saints or, knowing very much about them at all. The only saint I ever knew about was Saint Anthony when I had lost something. I knew that was the saint to call on. So a few years ago, I think it was probably about 6 years ago, maybe, this beautiful energy came to me, and I could smell flowers. I could smell especially roses. And I channeled a message from her, and it just piqued my curiosity. I thought, this energy is so beautiful. Why do I not know who this person is or was in their physical being? And so I have just had so many interactions with her since then. I had a beautiful meditation with her myself today, just sitting outside in nature. But, she suffered so much in her short life. And I think that's why I really resonate with her. There were so many coincidences. Well, I don't believe in coincidences, but the suffering, the physical problems that she had since a young child, and which I've had also. And she was the 9th child in her family, which I was also. And so, she used a lot of that information, I think, to have me start paying more attention. But when I got her book, and it is called The Story of a Soul, there are so many beautiful, beautiful writings in here. And I really encourage you all to get this and to read it. But I want to share with you the meditation that I had with her today was about flowers. I was surrounded by flowers of all kinds here in Vermont. It's just beautiful right now, and especially in this home that I'm staying in. But this passage really stuck out with me. I saw that every flower he has created has a beauty of its own, that the splendor of the rose and the lily's whiteness do not deprive the violet of its scent, nor make less ravishing the daisy's charm. I saw that if every little flower wished to be a rose, nature would lose her spring adornments, and the fields would be no longer enameled with their varied flowers. Don't you love that? What a way to share with us. Yeah, it's just sharing with us that we really need to lose all comparison. That even if we see ourselves as a clover, let's just go there, something that some people find annoying. Even if we're like that tiny little bitty clover and we're not a rose or a lily or, any of the flowers that get a lot of attention, we are still just as important in God's eyes. And it was really such a beautiful thought. And then to just remember what she had written about that and to be able to find it so I could read it to all of you.
And I think it's also important to know a little bit of history at that time. That thought was not on people's minds at that particular time. This was a very scary, if you want to say it, where it was a lot of fire and brimstone, and God was very vengeful and wasn't really talked about as being a loving entity and a loving, and she really changed that. She is actually also the patron saint of France, which she shares with Joan of Arc, who she also, she loved Joan of Arc. But she really, I think, needs to have, to her credit, this just didn't exist like this. And she started talking like she would fall asleep during prayers. They had 6 hours of prayers a day. This is not a normal, I'll say my quick prayers before I go to bed or before dinner or whatever. This was 6 hours of sequestered praying. And she would occasionally fall asleep during it. And she once humorously, but totally seriously too, said, do parents love their children any less while they sleep? And so it is with my God. He does not love me less because I fall asleep during a prayer or two. And she was okay with that. It was okay for her. Yes. It was just a whole new way of thinking of how to talk to God. She knew that all she had to do was ask. And she also said that she would talk to him like a parent, like a very loving parent, coming from a child that trusts the parent and knows that they can say whatever they want to. So that's where her perception came from. She trusted and loved unconditionally God and gave it to him.
Yeah, absolutely. And when she was in that monastery, because she had other sisters there, she had to become small. She didn't want to create any problems for them. There was some talk about they were taking over the monastery because there were so many of them coming in the family. And so she would just like make herself small, and she would do all the chores that nobody else wanted to do. She would eat the food that was like the leftovers that nobody wanted. She really was just so unconditional in her life and everything she did. And I think it's important to note also that she never went out on a mission. And Christina, you brought that up. Yep. She never went out into the field. She never had that outside contact, where she was preaching or ministering to others. And yet here she became a saint. And I think it was like that reward for being as that little piece of clover or something that was so, diminished in the light of all of the roses and the lilies and everything that was shining. It was because she did it with such a desire in her heart just to be loved by God and to be closer to him, that she's been rewarded in this way. And to become a doctor of the church with all of her physical illness, that struck me too. I'm like,
and so young, and so young, 24. I believe she's still the youngest one ever. That would,
Yeah. So I think it's just a miraculous life that she led. And I'm so glad that we've honored her by sharing her with others that may not have had a clue about this person like I did. I didn't know her until less than a decade ago, that I came to know her presence and her beauty and just how she just loves. She just loves. And there's been so many reports of miracles that have happened. People that have just been healed, and
more so really, after her death. That's one of the reasons why she got catapulted to sainthood, is because of the people who came and the nuns started hearing about these stories of how she had come and answered their prayers. And her book was extremely popular as well. Basically, it hit the New York Times bestseller list, like just like that. And it was new. Like I said, it can't get back more to how new all of this was for that period of time. And people connected. She talked to more of the ordinary people than any of their bishops, and they all recognized that she had made quite a connection in death, even with these people. 500,000 people showed up for her canonization, and that's a lot of people in that particular time. 500,000 came to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I have one more that I want to read. It's short, but I think this packs quite a punch as well. She says, if a little flower could talk, it seems to me it would say what God has done for it quite simply and without concealment. It would not try to be humble by saying it was unattractive and without scent, that the sun had destroyed its freshness or the wind its stem, when all the time it knew it was quite the opposite. Isn't that beautiful? Her writing just really speaks to the heart. I mean, it really helps you to understand that everything is loved. Even a piece of straw is loved by God. It's honoring everything in the world. Everything on this earth is honored. And that's what she brings forth for us, is to go into that type of energy of not diminishing anything's worth or anybody's worth. And that's why I say it's, to me, she really preaches without preaching about not comparing ourselves to anybody else and not looking at small or big, that everything is equal and we are all one. And she really brings that out for all of us. So I know we're almost out of time for the show, but if we can just go into that energy, let's just go there and ask her to come forward for everyone that's here, for all of us to feel her presence. Maybe she'll grace us with a smell of a flower. It may not be a rose. It may be something else like a gardenia, or maybe it's your favorite rose, whatever that might, or your favorite flower, whatever that might be. But let's just take a breath in. And in this moment, or these few moments that we have left, let's see ourselves the way that God sees us. Perfect, just as we are, not needing anything changed. And I want you to think of how God sees you as a flower. What flower would that be? Can you see yourself? Can you see the stem of that flower? Is it strong, or is it bending? Is it hanging from a vine? Just go into the energy of this beautiful creation of God, the flowers of the earth. There are so many. And the one that you identify with, the one that comes to your mind right now, just sit with it and just admire it. Maybe it's something very simple, or maybe it's very elaborate. But just sit there in the energy of it and give thanks to God, the Creator, for making you the way you are. Maybe there's some flaws there. Maybe there are some things that have been chipped away at. But just look at that flower in its perfection, the way God sees it, the way this beautiful saint has helped us all to see ourselves as loved no matter what. Not lower than anybody or anything else, but just a being of delight to the Creator. So let's just take that moment with your flower and just sit with it. Feel the color of it, the shape, the size, and just allow it to speak to your heart. Allow it to bring its energy directly to you, for you to see your beauty, to see your worth, to see how absolutely loved you are. You were not created to be anything other than light and love. You were created to shine in this world. You were created to bring forth joy into the world and to experience that in your life. So allow this flower to speak to you. Allow the joy that's coming from it, whether it's a smell or the beauty of it, the shape and the color of it. And let's sit with our flowers for just a moment in silence and see if this beautiful Saint Therese will bring a message to you from your flower. And now let's just give gratitude. Just go into the gratitude, first of all, to the Creator. Gratitude for this moment where we have learned so much of our own beauty, of our own grace, and just allow that energy to permeate in your heart and bring that gratitude forward. Let's give gratitude to this beautiful person who just loved. She just wanted to love and express that love. And she wanted everyone to feel the love she felt inside for Jesus, for God, for her family. Let's just give gratitude for every person that's in your life, for every person you've ever been touched by, every person who has helped you to understand more spiritually. And give gratitude for each step that you've taken on this earth plane, for however long that has been. For this wonderful saint, it was a very short lifetime, but she made the most of every moment. And that's what she's encouraging us all to do now, to make every moment that we have, every breath we take, be one of love, be one of gratitude, be one of wanting the very best for each person. Just take a breath in and come back to where you are right now, feeling the love, bring your flower with you. Just go ahead and bring it and hold it close to you as we go into a discussion tonight about the meditation and the teaching. And thank you. Thank you all who were here on the Zoom meeting, those of you who were with us in the virtual realm, and those who will watch this later. Thank you for joining us. And Christina, an outstanding job this week on the teaching. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Trust me, it was my pleasure.
I love the saint so much. So thank you for bringing her to life for us. And Mary Lou, thank you for the addition of the pictures and what you brought forward as well.
You're welcome.
And Jean and Grace Isis, thank you so much for being here with us for this. And let's get off of the air and leave everybody that's out there and go in and have our discussion together. And we leave everyone with namaste.
Namaste, y'all. Have a great night.
We'll be back next Monday. Bye, everybody.
Lead with